Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Let's talk for a moment about silver's realistic expectations as we explore. "2021 has been a very exciting year. There's been a lot of new interest in silver, on the piggybacking on the squeeze movements for some of these stocks like GameStop, AMC, and the like, and that has sprouted the silver squeeze movement, which I just recently checked on that Wall Street Silver Reddit page, and they have gained new subscribers, like 2,000 in the past couple of days here. So apparently they are not swayed, and they now have over 175,000 followers now as of the recording of this video. 2021 was a special year, and we have seen the movement of silver bugs, or what is referred to now as silver apes, dirty little apes. You know, it's growing, and it's exciting on one hand, but on the other hand, there has been some expectations, maybe some unrealistic expectations, especially among maybe some of the newer folks in that community who are maybe new to the world of silver stacking and the silver markets. Because we know that the movement, the silver squeeze movement, although it did have a slight impact in the amount of silver that was bought during that time, it did raise the price, the spot price, up slightly, ever so slightly. But with that much silver bought, many people were disappointed to not see it have a greater impact, and understandably so. So what does this mean about our expectations for silver? Well, I believe that you should go back into the mantra of, or the slogan of what the Wall Street Silver Reddit page is, and that is, we are a community that loves silver, period. So what does it mean to love this shiny white metal that has some quite unique properties, and something that I think is quite endearing about the metal is its many uses in industry, in science, and in technology. Those attributes alone make it extra special, aside from the markets that they are involved in or priced in. But the spot price of silver is quite a complex animal. We cannot predict it. No one has been able to really predict where silver is or where it's going to go. And that is something that we will continue to be perplexed on as we head into a new year. But I believe it's about having realistic expectations of the metal and the markets themselves. Now, what is being realistic about silver? What does that mean? What does it mean to have these expectations? Should we be completely bearish on silver? Well, no, we should not. We should also, more importantly, not be unrealistically bullish on the metal either, because you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And you have to be prepared mentally and psychologically when you enter in the silver market. When you buy it, especially in physical form, you must prepare yourself psychologically and mentally for the purchases that you make. What does that mean? Are you saying we're psychos, Uncle Sal? No, not in any stretch of the imagination. But that would be advice I would give for any commodity or for any investment that you make out there. Now, I'm using the word investment in terms of other tools to earn money, or to maybe even say or preserve what money you do have, but that I don't refer to it as an investment, but as a hedge. Silver is seen as a hedge. It is a way to protect ourselves against an ever devaluing dollar. And before inflation started in 2021, and to some extent in 2020, we know that this dollar loses value by design by 2% each year by the Federal Reserve. That is our central bank here, the Reserve Bank of the United States. They're the ones that are making this dollar die a slow death. And Essentially, it will be reborn in some instance. It'll be probably still called the dollar, but it'll be of a different type or style. Perhaps it'll be a central bank digital currency, or some sort of Fed coin, or maybe tied into a global system through the IMF. And whatever event it is, it's going to be not good for you and I, because our transactions will be tracked. And so therefore, it's incumbent upon us to maybe preserve our wealth outside of the banking system. And one way to do that is to hold some cash, but another way is to hold precious metals, even if you have to pay a bit of a premium above spot price to do so. But what is it about these expectations? The market is full of psychological, irrational decision making, and some of that can be translated as manipulation. Now, there is manipulation in the markets. That's one thing that I certainly recognize. I've actually covered that many times on this channel, but we don't necessarily see that translated into price suppression per se, or at least not seen evidence of it. And I think that, in part, is what it means to have realistic expectations to what we can see in the marketplace. We can't just write it off on suppression, because I don't think there's any entity strong enough to keep the price of silver down this much for so long. There are other factors at play with these natural market forces, which are extremely powerful. And these natural market forces involve human beings in more ways than one. Human beings are emotional animals. Yes, indeed. We're also rational as well. And in many ways, it doesn't make much rational sense to suppress the price of a limited commodity, a commodity that certainly is not, there's only so much of it that can be pulled out of the ground per year. And we know that we're probably going to be on the cusp of some sense of a shortage. How that shortage will be translated in the markets is something that we cannot expect to be higher, the high prices that many of us think it should be. We also look at silver in comparison to gold, and what kind of how do we make sense of the increasing gold to silver ratio? When gold goes up and stays up fairly high, and silver falls and stays lower than it should, compared to what we have seen for those of us who have been in these markets for a while, a normal gold to silver ratio. But what is normal these days? I don't know. We live in an abnormal world these days, and so our expectations should be, I believe, realistic. And sometimes being realistic with our expectations, we should keep them low. In other words, not be surprised if the price of silver hovers or doesn't perform the way we think it should, or even falls dramatically in a given amount of time, especially with what could be coming in the coming months or maybe even year. When we think that the prices should move up, sometimes they've moved down. Now, we have seen some surprises to the upside with the silver market, and I believe it's in our best interest to not get our hopes up too high if the prices of silver start to climb dramatically and very quickly. Just as quickly as something can go up, it can go down. And that's with any market, with any trade. But for me, when I buy silver, much of the silver that you see before you here has been bought when prices were much lower and much higher. It's in my stack. It has not changed. The amount of ounces that are here will maintain their existence. That's the beauty. That is the expectation that we can have about silver. It is what it is. It is a commodity, but it also has some stores of some attributes as being a store of value. Assessing that value as opposed to price is something that's very difficult to do, especially for silver, especially since we've seen it move dramatically from literally under $12 an ounce to almost $30 an ounce in a matter of months. It's a pretty drastic move. 2021 has been a much more stable year for silver. But nonetheless, looking into the future, we could see silver perform not to our hopes, but maybe it will perform at least to our expectations, so that we're not disappointed whenever there's a movement one way or the other with the silver market. If you have that attitude, an attitude of not having these extreme expectations for what silver should do within a given period of time, I think you will be better served to make better decisions whenever you make a purchase of silver, or even more importantly, when not to make a purchase. And that is key here, folks, because there are times when it is okay to be a silver ape and not buy. And it's also tests our fortitude by holding on to the silver that we do have when the prices drop. To not get frustrated, to understand that the markets are psychological, and that we are in an economic situation that is very difficult, I think, right now, and a lot of people really don't see it. And sooner or later, I believe we are going to see silver perform a little bit better in terms of price. And the best way for silver to do that is to rise slowly with the markets and with what is coming, and to see a steady incline of prices. And if you look at silver's price over the course of the last 20 years, or 30 years, 40 years, and draw a string from the price that it was at one point to where it is now, I think you'll see that. I think you will see that silver has done what it is supposed to do, and that is preserve our wealth over the course of a long period of time. But in this day and age, and really in a sense that should hold true even before the pandemic, and that is we should utilize smart dollar cost averaging in order for it to preserve our wealth, because there are definitely ways to buy silver and to lose out, and to lose out big time. I'm going to be talking about that subject more in the coming months, so stay tuned to the channel for that. So I hope you found this video insightful and thought-provoking about having these realistic expectations for this metal. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.